My sister-in-law snooped and stole our baby's name, then announced it right after she gave birth, but her face immediately dropped when she realized that we tricked her. So I have been married to my husband Kevin for 5 years. We have a 3-year-old daughter, and I'm currently pregnant with twins. My brother-in-law Terrence has been married to his wife Jess for 7 years. Jess and I are total opposites. Jess and an extrovert. She's kind of loud, boisterous, and some would even say abrasive. I'm an introvert. I'm not quiet or shy, but I am reserved. I'm also very observant. The first time I met Jess, I told Kevin that we would be like oil and water. We have never been overtly hostile towards each other, but also have never gone out of our way to bond. Jess and I have been in a one-sided beef since the day Kevin and I started dating. I give her zero thought if I don't have to, and yet I live rent-free in her mind based on snide comments she's made over the years. The reason why is jealousy. Kevin and I dated for only a year before we got engaged. We then were married. Within 6 months of that engagement, we had an actual wedding with a ceremony and reception, went on a honeymoon, bought a house in the burbs, and got pregnant in rapid succession. Both of us have good careers and are financially stable. Mother-in-law, father-in-law, and Neil all adore me. Jess and Terrence did not have a similar path. They had been on and off since they were 19-20 with Terrence, never really wanting to commit. During one of their breaks, Terrence got a FWB pregnant and now has an 11-year-old son. This has always been a sore subject with Jess due to her fertility struggles. Fibroids. When they finally got back together, she pressed him for marriage until he relented and gave her a shut-up ring. They went to the courthouse on a random Tuesday, then had dinner at Red Lobster afterwards, and went back to work the next day. Not trying to be shady, just relaying the facts. They now live in a 2-BR apartment in a call city while working hourly jobs. They aren't minimum wage or anything, but constantly need OT to make ends meet. This has led her to resent me over the years. She thinks everything has come easily to me and has let that fester. There was a time a few years ago at a gathering where she got drunk and got into an argument with Terrence. I think her attitude that night stemmed from seeing me with my infant daughter to hurt him. She blurted out that she married the wrong brother. Everyone was shocked. I wasn't. She just said the quiet part out loud and revealed what I already knew. So I poked her a little and said, "Really? Which one?" That's kinda gross, since both were minors when you met them. Context: Kevin and Terrence also have a younger brother, Tim. Boy, did she fly off the handle after that lull. To this day, she claims to have no memory of that night. Anyway, now I know there is a new reason why she resents me. Unfortunately, Terrence and Jess had fertility issues for several years before finally having their son a couple of weeks ago. Prior to this, Jess was very odd towards us when I was pregnant with our daughter. The best way to describe it is hot and cold. One minute she pretended like she didn't care while we were talking about it at family gatherings, the next she was volunteering to throw the baby shower. I gave a firm no to that. We both assumed the behavior was because of their fertility issues and didn't think too much of it. But the strangest thing she did was almost demand to know what we were naming our daughter before we announced it. She asked us constantly after our gender reveal and got visibly annoyed when we just laughed her off and said it was a secret. We couldn't understand why the hell she cared so much, as she was not expecting at this time. Regardless, we didn't share the name with anyone. When our daughter was born and her name was finally announced, Jess was kind of obsessed with it. I don't know how to explain it. She just kept going on and on about how beautiful and unique it was. To this day, she comments about how different it is. The name we chose is a pretty common Welsh name, which wouldn't be all that different except for the fact that we are African American. LOL. I've always gravitated towards names from different regions and found and fell in love with the name years ago and never shared it with anyone before. Kevin fast forward to both of us being pregnant at the same time. Jess' odd behavior continued towards me, but this time it was more blatant. Snarky comments under the guise of jokes about how big I was going to get with 2 babies and that my body would never snap back like it did after our daughter. She even accused us of getting pregnant on purpose after she announced her own pregnancy, even though the whole family knew we were actively trying. And at the time of her announcement, I was already a few weeks along and didn't know one thing about me. Introvert or not, I'm no pushover and will stand up for myself, But I chose to ignore Jess because I knew that would get to her more than confronting her would, since she seems to thrive off drama. Jess was obviously much further along than we are. However, we did have our gender reveal prior to Jess giving birth, and right on cue, the baby name interrogation started again because they decided not to find out the gender of their baby in advance. Jess kept hounding us for both of the names we had already picked out, but again we declined to answer. After days of this, I got annoyed and asked Kevin if he thought the reason for her insistence was so she could use the name first, since she was due first. He kinda chuckled until he realized I was serious and said he didn't think so, but that anything was possible. So I said, let's test it. We were due to host my father-in-law's birthday at our house a couple weeks later, and I decided to leave something in the unfinished nursery with a girl and boy name on it and see if Jess went snooping because Kevin thought it was silly. He said he would give me $20 if she did it. So I went on to some site where you can order custom name wall decals and put in the names Aria Rose and Sebastian Ali. These are names that we like but aren't remotely close to what we chose. This will also be our last pregnancy, so even if Jess did use them, we wouldn't care. I didn't complete the order. I got to the final page and then printed it out and hid it in a dresser drawer in the nursery. The party goes off, but because we were busy hosting, we never noticed if Jess disappeared for any extended period of time. When I went into the NICU the next morning, nothing was out of place and the order sheet was still in the exact location, so we both just went VLP and forgot about it. I did, however, notice that Jess never asked us about the names again. Then Jess gives birth. We went to the hospital to give our congrats when we go in and see the baby. I asked what his name was, and man, I cannot properly explain the poop-eating grin that came over Jess' face as she says Sebastian Ali. I mean, she was really proud of herself, and honestly, it's the most vindictive I have ever seen her look in the years I've known her. But instead of reacting how she was expecting, I performed like I had graduated from Juilliard. Oh my god, that's such a great name. He's so cute. Look at his whittle face. Oh, I just love him so much. Welcome to the world, Sebastian. Auntie is gonna spoil you rotten. I mean, I am laying it on thick without an ounce of bother. The range of emotions on Jess' face went from shock to confusion to rage in a span of maybe 17 seconds. Meanwhile, my husband is holding in the laugh of the century. We later say our goodbyes, and he gives me a 20 in the elevator while almost crying laughing. All I could say was like, I thought this was 2 weeks ago, and we haven't seen them since because we wanted to give them time to settle in with the new baby. I have heard from my mother-in-law that Jess doesn't seem as thrilled about motherhood as she thought she would be considering how long it took them to conceive, but said it might just be baby blues. Obviously, I think she's just disappointed that her petty move didn't have the desired effect on us. I did share this with my sister, and while she laughed initially, she did say it was kind of an awe movement. So, am I the whole update 11 days later I haven't seen or heard from Jess since that day in the hospital? Terrence also hasn't communicated much with Kevin other than sports talk. However, my mother-in-law has been with them almost every day. She came over yesterday to go over some last-minute things for our baby shower that we are having this Saturday after Halloween. I am not due till late January, but with the holidays and twins tending to arrive early, we just wanted to get it out of the way. Anyway, after finalizing some things, I asked mother-in-law how Terrence and Jess were doing. She sighed and leaned back in her chair and said, "Girl, it's a mess." She goes on a long word vomit that I will have to summarize. Basically, they've been at it since before the baby was born. When they were discussing names, Jess' list only consisted of girl names. When Terrence asked what if it's a boy, Jess was adamant that it wouldn't be, but if it was, they would just use Terrence Jr. This caused an argument because Terrence's 11-year was not named after him, and it would be petty to name the second son a junior. Unbeknownst to me, Jess was having severe anxiety over not the name, but the gender of their baby. So much so that she refused to find out early because she was afraid of disappointment and she wanted to enjoy her pregnancy believing she was having a girl. She really wanted a girl. I mean, really wanted a girl. This goes back to mother-in-law. In my opinion, mother-in-law is the only girl of 4 brothers. She had 3 boys, 2 of her 3 boys. Tim has a 6 years old have boys. Then my daughter came along. Mother-in-law actually broke down in tears at our gender reveal. Since the day she was born, mother-in-law has become a little obsessed with her. LOL. Not in a Jamil way, she knows and respects boundaries. But the whole family is aware that my daughter is mother-in-law's favorite person in the world. I think Jess thought that by having a girl she would get that same attention and affection for mother-in-law, as she has never been Jess's biggest fan. When that didn't happen, something short-circuited in her head. Mother-in-law's words, not mine. Before we arrived at the hospital that day, they were still fighting over a name. So I guess when I showed up she just blurted it out. While I still think it was to hurt me, it seems like it was also because she didn't allow herself to think of anything else because she didn't want a boy. I said in the first post how I noticed her expression. However, I completely failed to notice Terrence's. He was pissed. Jess had never mentioned that name to him prior, and he had no clue where it even came from. He also hated it. He refused to sign off on that, and they left the hospital without a name. In our state, you only have 7 days from birth to register a name. She eventually told Terrence to pick the name himself, and that she didn't care anymore, so he did. He swapped out Sebastian for Jordan but kept Ollie S after Michael and Muhammad Lowell according to mother-in-law. Since they've been home, Jess has shut down emotionally. She's been doing all the motherly things, but there's a disconnect there. Mother-in-law said she finally broke down to her a few nights ago that she'll likely never have a daughter due to her age and what it took to get pregnant in the first place. I think that will bring them closer together since mother-in-law never got the daughter she wanted either. I also felt bad hearing that because regardless of how I feel about her as a person, I do have a heart and would never want to punch down on her if she's in the throes of PPD. Jess still hasn't admitted to snooping, so I haven't admitted to setting her up. A few comments said I should never confess, but I think I will at some point. Mainly because I don't care. LOL. I am more than willing to burn a bridge while I am still standing on it, but now simply isn't the time. The following week after Jess and Terrence's baby was born, I focused on my life and on preparing for our baby shower. With twins on the way, everything had to be in place before the holiday season started. Kevin and I were excited, but I knew deep down that something was brewing between Jess and Terrence. We hadn't heard from them directly, and their absence only confirmed that things weren't going well. 2 weeks later, as I folded baby clothes in the nursery, Kevin walked in with his phone in hand, grinning. It was Terrence, wanting to vent a little. Kevin put the call on speaker, and I kept folding clothes, pretending to be absorbed. Terrence sounded exhausted. He said Jess had been cold and emotionally distant since they left the hospital, doing only the bare minimum for the baby. She doesn't even look at him properly, Terrence said. She feeds him, changes him, but there's no love there. She's just checked out. As I listened, I exchanged glances with Kevin, who was trying to hold back laughter. But for the first time, I didn't feel as satisfied as before. As much as Jess was unbearable and competitive, hearing that she was going through a breakdown made me feel uneasy. Still, I said nothing and let Terrence continue. He explained that the fights between him and Jess had escalated. After controlling every aspect of the pregnancy, she couldn't handle the fact that they had a boy and not the girl she had so desperately wanted. She spent months convincing herself it was a girl, he said, and when it wasn't, something snapped. He admitted he had tried suggesting therapy, but Jess refused, insisting that she was just tired and things would get better with time. Terrence seemed lost, and for the first time, I felt a little sorry for him. Jess's childish rivalry with me had morphed into an internal battle she couldn't win. Then, Terrence said something that caught me off guard. He revealed that during one of their fights, Jess admitted she hated the name Jordan Ollie. She confessed that she only wanted to use Sebastian Ollie to hurt me, as if stealing the name was some kind of petty victory. She didn't even think about what it would mean for our son, Terrence said bitterly. All she cared about was getting back at you. When the call ended, Kevin and I exchanged knowing looks. I didn't have to say anything. He knew exactly what I was thinking. The satisfaction I had felt earlier was starting to wear off. This situation wasn't over yet, and I knew it. At our baby shower, Jess and Terrence showed up unexpectedly. I was shocked. They were the last people I thought would attend. Jess entered the house, holding the baby like a bag of groceries, with an exhausted expression. The room fell silent for a moment before everyone resumed their conversations, pretending nothing was wrong. But the tension was palpable. Throughout the party, I kept my distance, watching Jess. There was something unsettling about the way she moved, as if she was detached from everything around her. Kevin chatted with Terrence about sports, pretending nothing was amiss, while my mother-in-law pulled me aside, worried. "She's like this all the time," she whispered. "I don't know how much more she can take." I wanted to feel empathy, I really did. But a part of me, a vindictive, prideful part, couldn't forget all the times Jess had tried to tear me down. A voice inside me whispered, "She's just reaping what she sowed." So I decided to be kind. Overly kind. I grabbed a tray of appetizers and approached Jess. "Do you want something? You must be tired with the baby and everything." She gave me a cold, tired look. "No, thanks," she muttered. But I wasn't about to let her off that easily. "You know," I said, smiling sweetly, "Jordan is a beautiful name. Terrence made such a great choice. It suits him perfectly." Jess's eyes narrowed, and I saw the flicker of rage spark in them. She knew I was playing the same game she had. Only now she was the one losing, and I was winning. A week later, my mother-in-law called with unexpected news. Jess had left. She packed her things and moved in with her parents, leaving Terrence alone with the baby. My mother-in-law was frantic, trying to make sense of what happened, but I knew exactly what had occurred. Jess finally realized she had lost. Her life had revolved around competing with me, and when her most spiteful plan failed, she completely broke down. Terrence called Kevin a few nights later, desperate for advice. He was overwhelmed, trying to care for the baby on his own, and worried about Jess's mental state. Kevin shook his head as he listened, and when the call ended, he said, "I don't think she was ever ready to be a mother." For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt, but it quickly faded. Jess had dug her own grave. She spent years trying to bring me down, and in the end, her own bitterness consumed her. I did nothing but defend myself. Saving her from herself would have been impossible. And then, as if the universe wanted to put the final nail in the coffin, I received a text from Jess. Just one sentence. "You won." I deleted the message without replying. There was no need. I already knew. The morning after the baby shower, I woke up feeling different. Something inside me told me it was time to close this chapter for good. I was tired of Jess dragging me into her petty games, of watching her envy poison every special moment in my life. She had lost, and I knew the war was practically over. But some stories need a clear ending, and I was going to make sure she understood, once and for all, that messing with me was no longer an option. Kevin noticed the look on my face over breakfast. "What are you planning to do?" he asked, familiar with that expression. I shrugged with a calm smile. "Nothing illegal. I just need to set things straight." He chuckled. "As long as you don't end up in jail, do whatever you need to." With that, I made a simple but effective decision. I was going to confront Jess in person. No texts, no calls. It was time to look her in the eye and close this chapter the way only I could. I dressed casually but stylishly, knowing that appearance is one of the most powerful weapons, especially when dealing with someone like Jess. Then, I drove to her parents' house unannounced. When she opened the door and saw me standing there, her face flickered with a series of emotions: surprise, discomfort, and, finally, her familiar disdain. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice exhausted. I could hear the baby crying in the background, and the house was a mess. "Perfect. I came to talk," I said, my tone calm but firm. "We can do it here, or we can go somewhere private. Your call." She hesitated for a moment, but eventually opened the door wider, letting me in. I shut the door behind me with a soft click and got straight to the point. "Listen, Jess," I began, crossing my arms. "You tried. I get it. It was a decent attempt. But it's over." She glared at me, but I didn't give her the chance to respond. "You've spent years competing with me, trying to tear me down, stealing moments that were never yours to take. And in the end, all you've done is ruin yourself. Now you're here, with a baby you can't even connect with and a life you don't even want. And guess what? I don't feel sorry for you. I could see the rage boiling just beneath the surface, but she was still trying to maintain her composure. "Do you think this is fun for you?" she hissed. "Coming here to rub it in my face that you have everything I ever wanted." I smiled, not cruelly but coldly. "This isn't about what I have, Jess. It's about what you lost. And it wasn't material things. It was control. You lost control of your own life because of a childish obsession with me. And now you have nothing." She opened her mouth to respond, but I raised my hand, cutting her off. "Listen closely, because I won't say this again. I didn't come here to fight. I came to end this. What you think or do from now on doesn't matter, because I don't play your game. I never did. You played it alone, and you lost alone." For a moment, she was completely silent. Then something unexpected happened. She broke. The tears she'd been holding back for weeks finally spilled over, and she sank onto the couch as if all the strength had drained out of her. "I just wanted things to be different," she whispered, more to herself than to me. "I know," I said, softening my tone slightly, though I kept my firmness. "But the way you handled it only destroyed the good things you still had. And now you have to live with that." I stood up and walked toward the door. Before leaving, I gave her one last message. "This isn't about winning or losing, Jess. It's about moving on. And that's what I'm going to do. I suggest you do the same." Without waiting for response, I left and closed the door behind me. On the drive home, a sense of relief washed over me. It wasn't an explosive victory full of fireworks and revenge. It was the kind of revenge that's most powerful, knowing I had closed this chapter on my terms, and from now on, her life would no longer affect mine. A few weeks later, I heard from my mother-in-law that Jess and Terrence had started couples therapy. Jess was still distant, but she'd finally accepted that she wouldn't have the daughter she'd dreamed of. She seemed to be making an effort to bond with the baby. I didn't wish her any harm. There was no need. Life had already dealt her all the lessons she needed, even if it would take years for her to fully learn them. Meanwhile, Kevin and I moved on with our lives. Our baby shower was a success, and the birth of our twins brought a joy beyond words. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Jess was just a closed chapter, a reminder that the best revenge is living well and never looking back. And as for me, I was ready to write the next chapter of my life. This time, with no one trying to steal the pages.